everybody, and welcome to Take 5. I'm Nate Richard.
I'm Matthew Simmons.
And I'm Ben Nelson.
And so in honor of Venom, which I definitely will not be seeing, that comes out this week, so we'll be doing top 5 villains, because, you know, Venom's a villain. And I kind of put up a little challenge. I made each of us put 3 of our 5 villains to be kind of ones no one else would pick. So, do you want to begin, Matthew?
Yeah, so the first villain I have at number 5 is the Neighborhood Watch Alliance from Hot Fuzz. Hot Fuzz is one of my favorite movies ever. I love Edgar Wright. Basically, the scenario of it is that the entire village, they want to keep their village safe, and it's like to win the Best Village Award. And the big twist in the movie is that they're all in like this murderous cult, and they're murdering each other off for like not following the rustic appeal of the rest of the town. And it's insane, it's crazy. A lot of the lines that they say in the beginning of it back around to the end of it as well, and it's just bonkers, and I love every moment of it. So very memorable for me.
All right, Ben, what's your number 5?
All right, so for my number 5, I have an obscure one. I have the Zodiac Killer from Exorcist 3. Okay, Exorcist 3 is one of the most underrated films of all time, especially the actor who plays the Zodiac Killer is the same actor who plays Chucky, and his performance is beyond anything I have seen in a long time. He can go from innocent and shy to just sneaky and cunning within the sentence that he is talking at right now. And he is quite intimidating, especially in that cell with the priest. And wow, I almost get nightmares every time I see it afterwards.
All right, so my number 5, everyone knows I'm a diehard Rocky fan. If you don't, well, now you know. So my number 5 is Ivan Drago from Rocky 4. Nice. Dolph Lundgren, that role, he's just a badass, okay? He's this Russian beefcake. He's a terrible person too. He kills Apollo Creed. He kills him. He doesn't have that much of a personality, but just the iconicness of that villain, for me, it wins me over.
And the fact that he's going to be in Creed 2
yeah,
makes him even better.
I'm excited, because I think Dolph Lundgren in Creed 2 is going to bring a little more.
Kind of like what Stallone did in Creed.
Creed,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And who knew that such a campy movie and such a campy villain would make such a serious offspring and serious sequel in the end?
Absolutely. I can change, you can change, we can all change. Ended the Cold War with that speech.
All right, my number 4 is a more recent one. That is Kylo Ren from the new Star Wars trilogy. Look, Darth Vader is awesome. He's iconic, and most people know him as the villain in Star Wars. But my very unpopular opinion is Kylo Ren is better than Darth Vader. He's more complex. I just think that moment in The Force Awakens where he takes off his helmet, and he's not just some guy behind the mask. He's just this human who's been through a lot, and I just find him so compelling, and his temper tantrums, while some may find them childish, they are childish, but sometimes they are very, very intimidating, which makes him kind of, you don't know what he's going to do next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought Adam Driver as Kylo Ren was the best part of The Last Jedi. Just the arc he goes. It's
Absolutely.
So complex and just so strong.
All right, so for my number 4 villain, I have another pretty obscure one. This is something that no one really expected. It's the character Steel from the movie Balto.
Woo!
Okay, so Balto it's somewhat of an underrated animated movie. Every single frame that this character is drawn in is you can freeze frame every single frame that he is in the film, and you could just put that on a wall to symbolize how evil this character is.
What does he even do in that movie? Because I remember seeing Balto as a kid, but I don't remember.
Okay, so Balto scratches these trees to make sure that he can get the correct path to get this medicine to these sick kids in Nome. What Steel does, because he's so jealous of Balto leading the team, he scratches multiple trees along the forest just so Balto can get lost, and Balto won't able to get the medicine to hundreds of sick children in time, thus causing all of those children in the city of Nome, Alaska to die.
Okay, I'm going to have to rethink my list. That's crazy.
Just
killing kids in an animated movie. That's
dark.
That's deep.
So my number 4 is Koba in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. In the Planet of the Apes movies and the new ones, it's easy to have a human as a villain because it's about Caesar's rise to power. And what I thought when those trailers came out is that Gary Oldman would be that villain. But what we got was Koba as a villain, and Toby Kebbell. He's just as good as Andy Serkis
Absolutely.
in that
I agree.
performance. He doesn't speak much, But there's so much to that character, like just how deranged and just how he has a backstory almost. I really thought he was like the best villain I've seen in any of those Planet of the Apes movies.
It was also like really cool seeing the callbacks to him and sort of like the PTSD that Caesar has in war. I thought that was really well like iterated.
Another thing I liked about him, he does have a small role in Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And you can see he had this like history of abuse and everything.
Yeah.
Like I know Ben is gonna later talk about Killmonger. I think he's just like, kind of like just the torn,
yeah.
cheated. He wants to rise up.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that villain too. My number 3 is kind of a common one, very, very iconic, and that is Hannibal Lecter from Silence of the Lambs. I mean, Anthony Hopkins in that role is just creepy. Like from the very first shot of that movie where it's just him standing in the cage, just staring at Clarice, it's just, every time I watch it, it gives me chills. And he's only in the movie for like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And still just leaves that impression around the entire movie. I love the last line in that movie where he's like, I'm having an old friend for dinner. I thought that's perfect. Lecter seems like someone who could be like a real life serial killer.
Yeah.
And because of his basis in psychiatry and everything, it's very, very cool. And I just always loved him as a villain.
I still need to see Silence of the Lambs.
You've not seen it?
No, I have not. I'll probably watch it this month because Halloween's spooky
Absolutely.
season.
Yeah, I would totally recommend
I love
that.
the character in Red Dragon too.
Yes, and the TV show is like one of my
with
favorites of all
Matt
time.
Nicholson? Okay.
Very
Yep.
cool.
Well, I already had my number 3 spoiled, but it is Killmonger from Black Panther. Like, this is one of the most complex villains that I have seen in a very, very long time. No other villain on my list can get like a major cult following like the one I have at number 3.
The fact that you can relate to him is just it's awesome. Yeah.
Because Marvel for the longest time was having their villain problem, and I really think with Vulture, but especially Killmonger, they fixed it because he's getting Oscar buzz for this role.
Yeah.
Yes.
Michael B. Jordan, I remember when they cast him, I was so worried that as a villain they would just waste him like they had done before.
He is like a villain of like circumstance, and I really like that aspect of him. Like he's not just a villain because he's evil. Like he's a villain because his ideology clashes with T'Challa.
This was the first Marvel movie I've seen where I was actually disappointed that they killed him
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
Instead of like in like Iron Man 3 or Thor the Dark World, where like, okay, they killed off that meaningless villain, next. But like for Black Panther, like when I saw him like rip that blade out, thus ending his life, I was like, oh my god,
know.
there was so much
But
more you could
that
have
was
explored.
such a powerful death scene, I felt. Like his last words left an impact. So my number 3 is Mr. Glass from Unbreakable. That movie, it stars Samuel L. Jackson and Bruce Willis. That movie is mainly about Bruce Willis, but I would argue that movie is just as much Sam Jackson's movie, Mr. Glass's movie, as it is David Dunn. I think that movie explores Mr. Glass's backstory so well, and you just see his struggles as a child, how like he was connected to comic books, and how he caused, spoiler alert, this movie is like over 15 years old,
Right.
how he caused that accident.
Yeah.
That just leaves, he was on Bruce Willis's side that whole movie, and that just kind of grabs you, and I can't wait to see what they do in next year in Glass.
Yeah, I hope like because it's called Glass, we'll see him take more of a primary character
Yeah.
role. So I really want to see what his plan is this time and everything. So yeah, I'm very, very excited for that one as well.
Back to that Glass trailer, the most exciting line I heard from that is like, that sounds like the bad guys teaming up.
Yes.
James McAvoy. Did you have your number 2?
Yeah, my number 2 is a little bit more obscure, but it is a movie that came out very recently, and it's just always stuck with me, and that is Black Phillip from The Witch. The Witch is this horror movie. This takes place in like 16th, 17th century New England, and it's about this family that gets banished from their town and they live out in the woods by themselves, and a witch curses their family. And Black Phillip is their goat that's just seemingly like, it's like, you know, one of their animals that they're raising. And spoiler alert, Black Phillip is the devil. He's Satan. And at the end, where she, again, spoiler alert, she kills her mom and the rest of her family is dead. She sees Black Phillip and she's like, please talk to me or whatever. And he starts talking. Like, it's that voice, and just the shot does not cut away from the main protagonist. And it is so amazing. So everything about that reveal, and from just everything about that movie in general is perfect. I love it.
That scene just made me freaked out for the rest, for several months after that. Number 2.
All right, so my number 2 is a recent classic villain called, I forget how to pronounce his last name, but it's Anton Segura.
Anton Segura.
Segura. Anton
Gotcha.
Segura.
Gotcha.
From No Country for Old Men. Just him in that dark corner, just waiting for her to come home. And like he just gives this speech about like life or whatever it is, and like how precious it is, just for him to kill her. Not to mention like in that convenience store.
The
like,
coin toss. Such an iconic scene, and I just think like it's a combination of just like Bardem's delivery of the lines, as well as just like they gave him like the most awkward haircut ever.
Yeah.
And on any other person, it'd be like, you look like Lord Farquaad or whatever. But like it works for this movie, and he's legitimately terrifying. And I think that's primarily one of the reasons why that movie is so loved. Is just it's such a great villain.
I've seen like the first 10 minutes of that movie, and he's such an uneasy villain just to watch.
Oh my God, yes.
Because that landed him his role in Skyfall.
Yep. And not to
And he won the
mention-
Oscar for it too, right?
Yeah. Okay, so my number 2 and 1 are super common ones, but I had to put them on because someone will ask, why didn't you put these on? So my number 2 is the Joker. Heath Ledger's the Joker from The Dark Knight. This villain, Heath Ledger, is the quintessential Joker. I know people say Mark Hamill and everything, and Heath Ledger, he does kind of go away from the traditional Joker, but that works to his benefit.
Yes.
Everything that comes out of his mouth is so memorable. He's unhinged.
You
is
like
the word I was looking
it's
for.
kind of like the aspect of like you don't know what he's going to do next. You don't really know what his plan is, and just the fact that he's always 3 steps ahead of Batman and Commissioner Gordon and all of them just make him an even better villain, because just when you think they're getting an upper hand, like he's like pulling the strings from behind the scenes. And
His entrance in the bank robbery scene is probably one of
it's
the best
classic. It's amazing.
villain entrances I've ever seen in the movie.
And pretty much every line that he's said in that movie is a memorable line that like every movie buff or everybody who watches like comic book
Want to
movies
see
knows.
this pencil disappear?
Love that scene so much. All right, so my number 1, my favorite villain of all time, is a slasher, and his name is Michael Myers from Halloween. Okay, so Halloween is one of those movies where as a kid I could not watch this movie because just the box art of like the VHS down in my basement scared me so much. And when I finally grew the nerve to actually like watch this movie, like it is so well done, and Michael Myers is scary just because he kills just because he enjoys it. Like he kills his sister when he's like 6 years old, I think, at the beginning of the movie, and then just goes on a killing rampage because Lori and her friends like they yell at him when he's driving the car, and he just decides to target them. And yeah, he's intimidating. What they do with him and the way that they light him in shadows and just how he stands and stalks is just so unnerving. And like,
Breathing from the mask.
oh God, yeah. And when I'm watching, after I'm done watching this movie, every time, whenever I'm walking home, no matter if it's lighttime or daytime or nighttime, I like have to always look. I'm like, he's definitely hiding around that bush right there. So just my number 1, always iconic, and just enough said about him.
All right, and my number 1 villain also gave me nightmares so long ago. But I'm sorry, Nate. I'm afraid I can't talk about this topic. Yes, my number 1 is HAL 9000 from 2001: A Space Odyssey. My goodness, this is one of the most iconic villains of all time. Like, he's sort of like the anti-Joker, like where the Joker just like wants to spread chaos or is chaos. This guy is a living, breathing machine. He is an AI. He is constantly calculating every move, and there is no way that he's like going to reveal his plans to anyone, not even his own crewmates aboard the space station that he is on. In fact, he is more than willing to sacrifice all of them just to get this mission done.
The idea of AI turning against us is always like very, very scary, especially in this world of technology. And I feel like over time, now that technology has grown, I feel like the appreciation for HAL has also grown as well. And I don't know who the voice actor is, but his job is just bone chilling.
Yeah.
Like, just like you said, like he was like, "I'm sorry, I'm afraid I can't do that." Like that line is just so iconic and so amazing.
When you hear that, that's when you know, like, okay, the movie's done.
Yeah.
His life is over. It's time to accept that.
Absolutely.
All one note, but it
All
works.
monotone.
My number one is obvious, but it's probably the most iconic villain of all time. It's Darth Vader from Star Wars.
Absolutely.
Everything, just from the look, the breathing, James Earl Jones' voice is probably one of the most intimidating voices I've ever heard. That deep voice and the heavy breathing, that just creates so much tension. And just his arc, just his redemption arc, his death, everything about Darth Vader works. He is the quintessential bad guy.
Absolutely. And he's kind of the face of Star Wars. Like, anybody in the world could see this guy's face and be like, yeah, that's Darth Vader from Star Wars.
Most movies and franchises have the hero as their main face. But Star Wars has Darth Vader, the villain of the franchise, as their
Absolutely.
main face.
So I agree that's number one, though.
Yeah.
He's a very iconic villain. But
So that's it for this week's Take 5. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm Nate Richard,
Matthew Simmons again.
Ben Nelson.
and you could watch more of The Real Deal. So see you guys next time.
Peace.